I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving and we are pretty deep into the 2025 NFL season. I've made a video talking about every team's most surprising or disappointing players so far. Let's talk about every NFL team's just best players so far. I also started this channel around a year ago as well, pretty much Thanksgiving of 2024. So thank you guys a lot for the support on this channel because it's the only channel I make YouTube videos on. So thank you. And we're going to start off with the Seattle Seahawks today, a team that has been pretty good this year. They're around 8-3 right now. They're fighting for a playoff spot and they're seeding in the NFC. I don't think their best player so far this year has been Sam Darnold, although he has been a nice surprise because it felt at least somewhat risky moving on for Geno Smith for Sam Darnold in the offseason. That's definitely working out. Yeah, this is an easy one though. It's Jackson Smith-Njigba, who could be on his way to getting the Offensive Player of the Year award. So far through 11 games for the Seattle Seahawks, JSN is on pace to get 2,000 receiving yards, something that has never been done in NFL history. 80 catches, 1,313 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's leading the NFL in yards per game. 119 a game, yards per target, around 12.3 per target. His deep ball connection with Sam Darnold has been out of this world. Only 3 out of his 11 games, he has been held under 100 yards, and only 1 game out of 11, he's been held under 90 yards, and that's when he had 4 catches for 79 yards in Week 4 against the Arizona Cardinals. JSN, like I said, is on his way to winning the Offensive Player of the Year award. He's 1 reception behind Christian McCaffrey, which is kind of crazy, to have the most receptions in the NFL, and he's about 5 touchdowns behind Devontae Adams to lead the NFL. So unfortunately, he's probably not going to be going for the Triple Crown this year, but the second best receiver this season is George Pickens in terms of yards with 1,054. He has almost a 300-yard gap between the number 2 receiving yard leader in the NFL. JSN is having a true breakout elite wide receiver 1 season, and you can make an argument he's the best receiver in the NFL right now. So I just mentioned him because he's leading the NFL in receptions for a running back. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey has definitely been the best San Francisco 49ers so far. It's been a weird year for the 49ers. They lost Brock Purdy for a little bit. Mac Jones kept them alive. This team's about 8-4 with so many injuries. Kittle has missed some time. Ricky Pearsall has missed some time. Juwan Jennings has been banged up. Brandon Ayuk may not even play this year or ever again for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's not even me mentioning their defensive issues with injuries because of Fred Warner being out for the year and Nick Bosa, their 2 best defensive players. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey this year has 81 catches on 103 targets as a running back, 785 yards and 5 touchdowns as a receiver. And then he also has about 800 rushing yards as well this year and 7 rushing touchdowns. And last year, Christian McCaffrey could not stay healthy whatsoever. He only played 4 games. This year, he's been healthy. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the 49ers roster has not been healthy. He's leading the NFL in carries. He's been a true workhorse for the 49ers this year, and in my opinion, has been their best player. The Rams have an MVP candidate on their team, and that's Matthew Stafford. Devontae Adams has been great in the red zone. Puka Nacua has played like a wide receiver 1. They've had great guys on the offensive line and the defensive side of the field. But in my opinion, Matthew Stafford has been the best LA Ram. This year, Matthew Stafford and the Rams are 9-2 at the top of the NFC West, a loaded division. Stafford, like I said, in the MVP conversation, having 30 touchdowns, leading the NFL in passing touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. That is an unreal touchdown to interception ratio. He's got a 66.5% completion percentage, over 2,800 yards this year. He's leading the NFL in touchdown percentage in first downs. He's got the longest pass on the year with 88 yards, and he's got the highest QBR in the league as well. Stafford is maybe having the best year of his career in year number 17. It feels like the Rams can win the Super Bowl because Matthew Stafford has just looked like the best quarterback in the league right now. You can definitely make an argument he is a top 3 quarterback currently in November of 2025. And I'm going to be fascinated to see who wins the MVP award this year because I don't think it's going to end up being Mahomes because of record. I don't think Josh Allen's going to end up winning it. Maybe not Lamar Jackson, most likely not because of the Ravens' poor start. Like, it's probably going to be Matthew Stafford and somebody else that we'll eventually get to. But yeah, I do feel like it's Matthew Stafford's MVP award to lose right now. And for the Arizona Cardinals, maybe the only disappointing team here in the NFC West, it's going to be Trey McBride, who's probably going to be the only tight end that we're going to talk about here today. Trey McBride has been a true wide receiver 1 for this team. I know Michael Wilson has built up a nice connection with Jacoby Brissett over the last few weeks, but Trey McBride has legitimate wide receiver 1 numbers right now through 11 games this year, 109 targets, 80 catches, 797 yards as a tight end. He's well on pace to get over 1,000 yards this year, 7 touchdowns as well. You can make an argument he is the best tight end in the NFL. I feel like going into this year, it's a little bit of George Kittle, a little bit of Brock Bowers, but over the last 2 years, Trey McBride has stepped up with multiple quarterbacks throwing him the ball, and it's nice that Arizona got this extension done before the season started. It wasn't an obvious one for the LA Chargers, but I ultimately went with Justin Herbert, who I think has just been a rock-solid quarterback for the Chargers this year. I feel like their offensive line is so banged up. It could have been Joe Alt. They've had so many different running backs, so many different receivers kind of stepping up as the guy. Like earlier in the year, it was Quinn Johnston. Lately, it's been Rob McConkey. Maybe the most consistency, it's been Keenan Allen. I think the defense has been good, but nobody's really standing out as like the best player on this team. Chargers fans, you can let me know if you disagree. But Herbert this year has led the Chargers to a 7-4 record through their first 11 games, a 66% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and about 2,700 passing yards on the season. And honestly, these are pretty good numbers, and you could say it's a successful season for the Chargers with just all the injuries in the backfield, to a Marion Hampton who's about to return, to Najee Harris who's out for the year. Even Hassan Haskins got banged up as well, and just the offensive line has been absolutely depleted. He had 2 blue chip offensive tackles going into the year, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Both of them are out for the year right now, and I think Herbert has still been good enough to be the Chargers' best player. For the Kansas City Chiefs, I feel like you could make a good Patrick Mahomes argument, but I'm not going to go with him. I'm actually going to go with Trent McDuffie as the best Kansas City Chief. I think you could definitely give a shout out to Creed Humphrey as well, but when you talk about just maybe the best center to one of the best corners in the league, I value the corner positional value over the interior offensive lineman. Although Creed has been great this year, Leo Chanel has been really good. And yeah, Patrick Mahomes has been good so far, but I do think McDuffie has been a CB1 this year. And like he's been for the last few years, he broke out in 2023 after being a first rounder in the 2022 draft. All-Pro first team member. He was an All-Pro second team member last year, and he's well on his way to being an All-Pro team member again this year. He's got an interception this year, a sack as well, 55 total tackles, but he's just been an elite coverage corner. He's somebody that you could really trust guarding opposing teams, wide receiver ones lining up against him, and that's exactly what you need in the NFL in the modern day. And I think he's just also been the most consistent Chief this year. I think this was also an interesting one to decide with, because you could just go with that quarterback value Mahomes, who's still been good this year, maybe not the elite Patrick Mahomes, and obviously the Chiefs have had somewhat of a disappointing record right now at 6-5. So yeah, if you went with Mahomes, Creed Humphrey, Trent McDuffie, Leo Chanel, I think you can make an argument for all of those being the right answer. I think an easy one here for the Las Vegas Raiders, it's kind of a chalky pick, but yeah, he's been their best player in my opinion, and that's Max Crosby. There haven't been a lot of bright spots for the Raiders this year. I think if Brock Bowers didn't get hurt, I would go with Brock, but the offense has just been a massive disappointment. We know that they just fired Chip Kelly after paying him over $5 million to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. It's been a disaster first year in Las Vegas for Pete Carroll. Geno Smith has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Ashton Jeanty can't get past the line of scrimmage because the only good offensive lineman, Colton Miller, ended up getting injured earlier in the year. So I'm going with Max Crosby on the defensive line, who really doesn't have a lot of help on the defensive line either. Like Tyree Wilson has been a disappointing first-round pick. Christian Wilkins got waived before the season started, and Crosby this year has about 6 sacks in 11 games. He's getting double-teamed a ton, but he's still generating a ton of QB pressures and hits this year. He's still one of the best edge rushers in the league. You just may not notice it because the Raiders have not played in a lot of entertaining games so far. And for the Denver Broncos, I'm going to do a collective unit. It's going to be their offensive line. Yeah, their offense has had its moments this year, but I don't think like Bo Nix has been their best player, or J.K. Dobbins or Cortland Sutton. The defense has been good, and you could maybe give a shout out to like Talanoa Hufanga, Patrick Surtain before he got hurt, Nick Benito definitely, but I think Quinn Miners, I think Garrett Bowles, I think even Luke Wattenberg, who just got extended by the Denver Broncos, have been the collective best unit for them this year. Mike McGlinchey's had his moments, Ben Powers, but it's really Miners, Wattenberg, and Garrett Bowles. That trio has allowed Bo Nix to have a ton of time in the pocket. It's allowed RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins to have pretty open running room that Ashton Jeanty would kill for right now, and they have that in Denver. They've done a really good job building up this offensive line over the last few years, and that's going to be my Denver Broncos pick. And funny enough, back-to-back teams were doing the same thing, and that's going to be for the Chicago Bears. You could maybe shout out Caleb Williams, who has been good this year in year number 2. I just think he's been a little bit up, a little bit down. Like, shout out to Ben Johnson for the creativity with this team. Maybe we were on our way for Roma Dunze to be the honors here, but I'm not going to go with him. So I'm going to go with the offensive line. Drew Dahlman has been one of the best free agency pickups from the 2025 offseason. Joe Thuney has been a great pickup as well. The Kansas City Chiefs could use somebody like him. Jonah Jackson and Darnell Wright have been great. It's been pretty much the whole offensive line outside of the left tackle. It's been Braxton Jones before going on the IR, Theo Benedict, like Ozzie Trapilo, the rookie. So yeah, 4 to the 5 offensive linemen for the Bears have kind of been elite this year after having just a terrible offensive line last year for Caleb Williams. Like, I think TJ Edwards has been good. Kevin Byard has been good. Tremaine Edmonds, kind of the defensive linebacking core, has been good outside of some injuries as of late. But yeah, I'm going to go with the offensive line. They're allowing Caleb Williams more time to throw and Ben Johnson to have a little bit more creativity and flexibility as the main offensive guy there. For the Green Bay Packers, I'm going with Micah Parsons. I think the offensive unit has been a little disappointing this year. I think Jordan Love has been better than the stats have shown. He just hasn't had a ton of receiver help this year. And the offensive line has just been banged up a ton as well, with Zach Tom missing some time. But I think the secondary with Carrington Valentine and Xavier McKinney and Keyshawn Nixon have looked good this year because of the pass rush that Micah Parsons can generate. I mean, there was a reason why he went for 2 first-round picks and signed the largest contract for an edge rusher in the NFL, because he's an elite premier edge rusher. He's got 10 sacks so far this year through 11 games, 30 total tackles, 20 QB hits, a forced fumble. PFF has him graded out to being the second best edge rusher in the NFL this year because he's unreal at attacking the quarterback. This is the same Micah Parsons we saw in Dallas, still at the top of his position. I'm sure Dallas would like somebody of Micah Parsons' caliber right now. He's probably not looked at as the best running back right now at the moment statistically, but could be the best running back at the end of the year. And I think the best Detroit line this season has been Jahmyr Gibbs. You can see the lines have been kind of all over the place this year with some really disappointing games. They're 7-4 right now. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC last year, but Gibbs has done so much for this offense where he's got about 950 yards this year on the ground, 155 attempts. He's leading the NFL in yards per carry, 6.1 yards per carry. He's got 48 catches for 317 yards, 3 touchdowns there as well. So he has 13 touchdowns on the year, 3rd in NFL rushing yards behind Jonathan Taylor and James Cook, when he's sometimes splitting carries in the backfield with David Montgomery. You can make an argument he's the quickest player in the NFL as well. And yeah, Penei Sewell has been elite. You could definitely shout out him. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has gotten his touches this year. But I do think Jahmyr Gibbs has been the best Detroit line, even with a new offensive coordinator this season. And for the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to go with their second-year quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy has been really good here. No, I'm just kidding. I can't really go with J.J. McCarthy. It's been the complete opposite. There's not really anybody that stands out to me this year as the best Minnesota Viking. I'm actually going to go with Justin Jefferson, who I know doesn't have the most flashy numbers to what Justin Jefferson has done in the past, but you know how bad their quarterback play has been this year with Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy, aka 9. He still has 60 catches, 795 yards, only 2 touchdowns this year, 99 targets. But if you watch any of the film, Justin Jefferson still can get open so easily and is still one of the best route runners in the NFL. I just wish he got more targets. I wish the Minnesota Vikings have had a better offensive game script, but it hasn't really been the best for J.J. McCarthy in that era in Minnesota right now. So I know the stats don't say that Justin Jefferson maybe has been the best Minnesota Viking, but I think if you watch him, he's getting open a ton, and I wish got the ball a little bit more. As a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I don't think there's also somebody that really stands out as the individual best player. I think Jalen Ramsey has had his moments this year and has been asked to do so much with a very lackluster defensive scheme. I think TJ Watt's having a little bit of a down year, but still a good year, just not as good as maybe his standards are. Cameron Hayward, you could definitely talk about, still one of the best run stoppers in the league. I'm actually going to talk about Jaylen Warren. I don't know if Steelers fans are going to agree with me on this one, but I feel like Warren is one of the few guys that when he has the ball in his hands, I just trust him 100%. I wish he got the ball more from Arthur Smith, but you know, we got to get Kenneth Gainwell his touches. And Warren gives 110% effort every single run. He's going to run until the whistle is stopped. He's averaging about 4.3 yards per carry this year with not a great offensive game plan, with not the best offensive line, with not great quarterback play either. 141 carries, 604 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's got about 220 yards in the receiving game. I know the individual stats don't look great because the Steelers offense has been very lackluster at times, but I do think he's been arguably the best Pittsburgh Steeler. Definitely the best offensive player, in my opinion, up there with maybe Darnell Washington. But the Steelers defense collectively has been such a disappointment. I didn't really want to go with somebody on that side of the field. If Lamar Jackson wasn't hurt earlier in the year, I probably would have went with him. We could see how much better this team is when he's out there and not Cooper Rush. But I'm going to go with Kyle Hamilton, who's definitely on his way to winning another All-Pro First Team honors. He got that in 2023. He was All-Pro Second Team member last year with like Kirby Joseph and Xavier McKinney being the really good safeties. And I think you can make an argument that like if Myles Garrett didn't have as many sacks as he did, Kyle Hamilton could have been in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation given how good he is as a safety. Like I think he is by far and away the best safety in the league. And then there's a noticeable teardrop. I'm not even trying to disrespect the second tier. I just think Kyle Hamilton is by far and away the best safety in the league. He's one of the smartest defensive players in the league. league. He's an elite coverage safety. He's an elite pass rush safety as well. He can attack the quarterback with such poise. And if he's not on the field, like, the Ravens could be an absolute disaster. Thank God for their sakes this year that he has been healthy, because I don't know where this defense would be without him. So yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals haven't had that many good players this year, so I'm just going to go with Jamar Chase, who has still gotten his numbers this year with Jake Browning for a little bit and Joe Flacco. Now, thankfully for us as neutral fans watching the Bengals, we're about to get Joe Burrow back against the Baltimore Ravens on Thanksgiving. So far this year, Jamar Chase throughout 10 games, 117 targets, 79 catches, 861 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The numbers would have looked a little bit better if he didn't spit on Jalen Ramsey a couple weeks ago. But yeah, he's still showing that he is arguably the best receiver in the league, and I'm excited to see what his numbers will look like when Joe Burrow comes back. And yeah, I just mentioned his name a little bit ago, but Myles Garrett has definitely been the best Cincinnati Bengal. He's probably going to win another Defensive Player of the Year this season, which would be his second in 3 years. He has 18 sacks, leading the NFL through 11 games. There is a really good chance that Myles Garrett sets the single season sack record for a terrible Cleveland Browns team. He's leading the NFL in tackles for loss with 26 this year. He gets double teamed an extreme amount. I expect him to get double teamed even more later in the year, because I don't think any team wants to be on the other side of history with him breaking the sack record against them. But yeah, he's still showcasing why he's maybe the best individual defensive player in the NFL, and just kind of living up to the hype as a generational pass rusher out of Texas A&M. This might be a surprising one for you, but for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm not going to go with Dak Prescott. You could definitely say Dak, but I'm actually going to say it's George Pickens. He has been an unreal wide receiver 2, but kind of now wide receiver 1 for the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb got hurt earlier in the year, and George Pickens stepped up as the true wide receiver 1 on this team. So far this year, Pickens, 92 catches. I mentioned it earlier. He's number 2 by 300 yards to JSN, but still is the only other receiver over 1,000 yards going into the Thanksgiving week. He's got 1,054 yards, averaging about 16 yards per catch, 8 touchdowns, 96 yards per game this season, is one of the best contested catch guys in the NFL. We saw that in Pittsburgh, but he never really had great offensive coordinator play or just quarterback play whatsoever with like Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last year. But he's showing that if he could just have competent quarterback play, because Dak Prescott could definitely earn these honors of the best player this year. I'm just going to give some love to George Pickens, who has been unreal this year. He's going to make so much money in the offseason. I don't know if Giants fans are going to agree with me here, but I'm going to go with Jackson Dart as the best Giant this year. Unfortunately, Malik Neighbors suffered an ACL tear early in the year on the defensive line, like as advertised with Burns and Lawrence. But I don't think any one of them has kind of stood out as the individual best Giant this year. Abdul Carter's been slightly disappointing in his rookie year. And I think Dart has just looked so much better than any quarterback play that has really came out of the Giants system in quite some time. He's only appeared in about 7 games this year as a true starter, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I know it's a 2-5 record, but it's not just his fault they've blown some of those games against like the Denver Broncos. He's got about 1,400 yards on the year as well. He can get it done with his legs. He's got around 317 yards on 57 carries and has looked like every part of a franchise quarterback this year for the Giants, and definitely looks like he has more potential than what Daniel Jones had coming out of Duke in his early Giants days. The Eagles offense has kind of been disappointing this year. Like at this time last year, I could have talked about AJ Brown, probably Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. I'm going to talk about Zach Bond, and I think their defense has also been kind of all over the place this year at times. It's still a really good unit. It's kept them in games against the Packers. They won, the Detroit Lions that they won as well. And I'm going to say that Zach Bond has been the best Philadelphia Eagles fans. You can let me know, would you have gone with Zach Bond or maybe somebody in the secondary? Either way, this year, Bond has about 88 tackles on the year. He's got about 6 tackles for loss. He has 3 sacks as well. He's got a forced fumble. He's got 6 pass deflections, and I feel like he's just been the most reliable Philadelphia Eagle this year, maybe the most consistent Eagle as well. It still blows my mind that like Howie Roseman found him on basically special teams for the bad Saints team a couple years ago and is now arguably one of the best linebackers in the league after Fred Warner. One of the more disappointing teams this year, the Washington Commanders. They were playing the Eagles in the NFC Championship game last year, and I think a lot of their notable offseason acquisitions really haven't panned out. Deebo Samuel has kind of been all over the place this year. Marshawn Lattimore, their in-season pickup last year, hasn't really worked out. They invested a lot in the defensive line with like Javon Kinlaw, hasn't really worked out either. Von Miller looks old as well, but I do think one of their offseason acquisitions has panned out, and that's Laramie Tunsil, who still looks like an elite offensive tackle in this league as a pass blocker and as a run blocker, but just still being able to protect Jaden Daniels, who I know has been banged up this year, but it's not at the fault of Laramie Tunsil whatsoever. And it honestly makes me think how bad this offensive line unit would be if they didn't make this trade in the offseason. Now for the New York Jets, I think we're going to go with a rookie actually. So they trade away Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. We can't talk about them. The offense has not been great this year, at least the passing game. Now, Breece Hall has been good, and you could talk about Breece Hall, but I think a reason why Breece Hall has been good, Armand Membu, yeah, the rookie out of Mizzou, has been one of the best offensive linemen in the league this year in his first season for maybe not a dysfunctional organization, because at least they have, you know what, actually, I don't know, I was going to talk myself into it. So maybe it is a dysfunctional organization for the Jets, who have not been a great team in quite some time. But Membu has been super consistent as a run blocker, as a pass blocker, 6'3", 315 pounds. I think the Jets absolutely aced this pick in the 2025 draft, the first draft with the new regime. And I think he's just a franchise tackle in this league, and those guys do not grow on trees. Still just 21 years old. When I was talking about the LA Rams, they had an MVP candidate in Matthew Stafford. He had some competition against another quarterback, Drake May of the New England Patriots. Yeah, Drake May has kind of taken the Patriots by storm this year. Now, I will say, Drake May's numbers do look MVP caliber, and he is 10-2 this year as their starter. The Patriots are at the top of the AFC East. They've had some solid wins, but their strength of schedule hasn't been maybe as good as Matthew Stafford and the Rams so far this year. So I do wonder how Drake May looks towards the end of the year, because if he can win MVP in year number 2, that would be mind-blowing, but he definitely has the numbers. 3,100 yards this year, leading the NFL in passing yards, and is also the NFL leader in completion percentage as well, 71%. He looks so much better under Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, now in New England, from what he had last year with Gerard Mayo. 21 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He can also get it done with his feet as well. 300 yards on the ground this year on about 75 attempts, and just having your franchise quarterback at 23 years old must feel really nice, Patriots fans. I'm jealous, because I probably couldn't have the more opposite answer as a Steelers fan. So the Buffalo Bills have probably been disappointing this year to their standards. They're 7-4. They did lose to the New England Patriots on Sunday night earlier in the year. You could give a shout to Josh Allen. I still think he's been a good quarterback in this league. Maybe not as good as the MVP numbers from last year, but I'm going to go with James Cook, who's currently second in the NFL in rushing yards this year. 1,084 yards on about 199 attempts. Hey, if he somehow got 105 yards on his next 6 attempts, he could be up there with Jonathan Taylor, but he's averaging around 5.4 yards per carry. He has 8 rushing touchdowns on the year, and good things happen when you get James Cook the ball as well. He's also been effective as a receiver, 24 catches, 203 yards as well, 1 receiving touchdown on the year. Bills fans, you can let me know if you agree or not with this. I don't think their defense has really been great this year. The offensive line has had its moments. It's not a terrible offensive line, but I don't think anybody in that unit could really be their best player so far. And for the Miami Dolphins, it's also their running back, Devon Achane, has definitely been the best Miami Dolphin this year. Tyreek Hill got out for the year. Jalen Waddle has been fine. Tua, maybe not as fine this year. The offensive line has been a mess. The defensive line has been a mess. Shout out to like what Minka is doing in the secondary, but I don't think he's been their best player. It's definitely Devon Achane, who feels like just gets the ball every single possession as maybe like an RB swing pass. He's got 164 carries this year throughout 11 games, 900 yards. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He's got a 46% success rate. For this bad offensive line, that is very impressive. He's averaging 82 rushing yards per game, but is also averaging about 35 receiving yards per game, 54 catches, 370 yards. So he's averaging over 110 yards per game on the ground and in the air. And I just don't know where this offense would be without A-Chain. A tough one here for the Saints. Like, you can maybe give a shout to like Kelvin Banks or Tolise Fuaga. I don't think it's been any quarterback play. Probably not anybody on the defense. Maybe Demario Davis at times. I'm going to go with Chris Olave, who I feel like has been consistent this year as a wide receiver 1 for the Saints, with and without Rashid Shaheed next to him, and with Tyler Shuck now as the starter and Spencer Rattler earlier in the year. Olave, thankfully, has been healthy this year. He only played 8 games last year with multiple concussion scares. This year, he's played 11 games so far, has 108 targets, could get to his career high of 138 back in 2023. He's got 69 catches, 734 yards, 4 touchdowns as well, and is looking like a wide receiver 1 that they drafted him to be with the 11th overall pick back in that 2022 draft. I think for Tampa Bay, you could go with 3 different guys. You could definitely give some love to Baker Mayfield, who has done so much with so many injuries this year. Injuries to himself, Mike Evans, Godwin, McMillan, Auden, Bucky Irving, Emeka Buka has been banged up at times. The offensive line has been banged up. I think you can give some love to Tristan Wirfs this year, who still looks like one of the best offensive tackles in the league. I'm going to give a shout out to Jamel Dean. Now, I don't know if he's been like the most impactful player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know if you will agree with me, Bucs fans. You may just end up going with Baker, and that's completely fine with me. But Jamel Dean has kind of been like just elite entering the last year of his contract. He's been one of the best coverage corners. He's been an elite run-stopping corner as well this year. He's got 3 interceptions, even one of them being for a pick 6, 6 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles on the year, and is probably going to get some major money on the open market in a few months. For the Carolina Panthers, I think you can talk about 2 guys. You could talk about J.C. Horn, who has still looked like a great corner this year for them in their secondary. I'm going to talk about Rico Dowdle because I don't know where this running attack would be without him. Now, their passing attack has been all over the place this year. When they're not playing the Falcons, it's been pretty bad. I think Ted McMillan has looked really good as the wide receiver one, but Rico Dowdle basically in 6 games as a starter has 871 rushing yards on 174 attempts, averaging about 5 yards per carry. He's tied for 6th as the NFL rushing yard leader this year, and basically has half as many starts as other guys. He had 206 yards against the Dolphins earlier in the year and 183 yards against the Cowboys. I mean, those two defensive lines, not good whatsoever, but he played good against Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers, where he had 2 touchdowns against them. But yeah, if you went with like a JC Horn, if you went with a Ted McMillan, I'm cool with that as well. For the Atlanta Falcons, I was going back and forth between 3 guys as well. I think the NFC South was kind of tough to figure out. You can give some love for sure to Drake London, although he's been slightly banged up this year. I think you can give some love to Divine Diablo over in the linebacker group because he's really stepped up kind of out of nowhere this season. But I'm just going to talk about Bijan Robinson, who I think has been maybe the most consistent or at least the most eye-popping Atlanta Falcon this season. I do think their offensive game plan has been all over the place this year with Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson calling the shots. But Bijan still looks like one of the best running backs in the NFL when they have a consistent game plan and the offense is going. 172 attempts this year, 853 yards, 4 touchdowns, 49 receptions though, and 543 yards as a receiver, which has been a nice wrinkle to Bijan this year. Already has the most receiving yards in a single season of his career. I think has been the best Atlanta Falcon. Kind of an easy one for me here in Jacksonville. It's nobody on the offense. It's going to be Devin Lloyd, the linebacker going into year number 4, whose 5th-year option was not picked up. I'm pretty sure that the Jacksonville Jaguars would have liked to have that one back. He's got 4 interceptions on the year, including that electric pick 6 against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football earlier in the year. He's got 4 pass deflections, 1.5 sacks, 43 tackles, and has just kind of been the most reliable piece on that defensive side of the field for them. For Tennessee, I honestly wanted to give this to Cam Ward because he's dealt just not a good offensive line, no running backs, no receivers. His head coach got fired, and he still looked like a competent number 1 overall pick at times. But no, it's still been Jeffrey Simmons as the best Tennessee tight end this year, in my opinion. Simmons this year has been an elite pass rusher for the Tennessee Titans with really no help on that defensive line whatsoever. He's got 5.5 sacks for a defensive tackle, which is really impressive. He's got 13 QB hits, 35 tackles on the year, and 9 tackles for loss, because I truly have no idea where this Titans defensive line would be without him. I think you can go with a duo over in Houston as like their best players this year. I think it's the edge rushing duo of Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson. Will Anderson, I might give this slight nod to just because he's looked like an elite pass rusher yet again. The 3rd overall pick in the 2023 draft has lived up to every bit of the hype he had coming out of Alabama. 10.5 sacks throughout 11 games, 3 forced fumbles this year, just a true one-of-one athlete in the NFL, and is a big staple of this Texans defense going forward, still just 24 years old. We've talked about a lot of running backs in this video, but we're going to save the best one for last. Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Probably not going to win MVP this year. He's probably going to be in the running with JSN for Offensive Player of the Year. He's having a truly special running back season. If you thought Saquon and Derrick Henry were great last year, he's probably been better than them throughout 11 games so far this year. He's got about 1,197 yards through 11 games, leading the NFL with 15 rushing touchdowns, and he also has 2 receiving touchdowns as well. 17 touchdowns on the year, leading the NFL in first downs for a running back with 60, longest rush with 83. He's averaging 108 yards per game, which you guessed it, leading the NFL. He's got 4 games this year with 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 against the Atlanta Falcons, 1 against the Chargers, 1 against the Raiders, and 1 against the Tennessee Titans. He has looked like the best running back in the league this year and has really made Daniel Jones's life a whole lot easier. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said about your favorite team down below. And if you guys did enjoy the video, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you were not already, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.